All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. It's always fun to put on full display just how retarded you really are. Um, it's nice sometimes, read. I guess I've done okay for the extent of retardation that I actually am.
Yeah, I mean, if technical difficulties is retardation, I'm like the most retarded person out there. It's kind of it's part of my show. Like I don't know if you've done this with your show, but I've successfully made it so that people are expecting some sort of malfunction, and if you don't have one, it's almost disappointing. So basically, just setting the bar really, really, really low so it's met every time. That's kind of how
There
I
you
deal
go.
with
Well,
those.
usually I keep the comments on, and that way people kind of cue me in on technical difficulties. On this particular episode, I thought I was flowing so good, and like I felt like I was just channeling the wisdom of the universe. And I was just like, I'm not gonna even look at those comments. I don't want to get distracted. I'm just one with the universe right now, and wisdom is pouring through me, and that will be for I guess me and my neighbors to enjoy, and that's it.
Yeah, I think you should leave it up because I
Oh
saw
yeah,
some of
no, there's no
yeah.
way I'm pulling that down. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's just watching you in the moment. It's not necessarily about what you're saying. It's just the fact that you're saying it and it's resonating with yourself or whatever, and
Right.
people can watch and feel inspired.
You know what? I challenge the fans to put together the best subtitle of what maybe I was saying.
I like it.
So Reed, is this the new New Hampshire home?
Yeah, I'm living with a coworker in a spare room that he has, so it's pretty exciting. I've got a picture of Bow Lake in Stratford, New Hampshire behind me, and yeah, so it's not a very exciting studio setup, but it's what I got right now.
All right, and as the man who kind of brands himself as the working man, constantly rotating between different horrible jobs, maybe not horrible jobs, but
No,
hardworking
some of
jobs.
them have been horrible. That's
Yeah,
accurate.
you're
So
the libertarian Mike Rowe. So what's the current manly job that you're engaging your labor in?
yeah, I'm working for a power line contractor right now. So the utility companies hire us to do all the miserable work that they are not capable of doing themselves. So all like the off road stuff, the super high voltage stuff, the big, like setting the giant poles and stuff that they don't have the equipment for, all that stuff. So it's been a very busy year. Lots of storms this winter up here in New Hampshire. So I was working like I think I averaged over 100 hours a week in January. It was pretty nuts. So
That's pretty
lots of work.
wild. Now, I have not. Well, I've worked manual labor jobs that probably are not as manual labor as what you're doing. And I've typically had like long days where I'm like, oh man, I'm such a dude, and then I wouldn't work for a week type deal.
Uh-huh.
One of the toughest jobs I think I've worked, or at least in my memory, was I used to have a job restocking vending machines, and the mornings were pretty brutal in the winter because we were outdoors loading up a van. And I remember some mornings like even just having to like run to the bathroom just to run water on my hands because like literally just fucking frozen hands. How miserable is it out there in the winter? Do you have good gear for that, or do you have some days where it just sucks?
So yes and no. We do have good gear, but at the same time, like depending on what you're doing, if you're working on the lines, you got to wear those rubber insulated gloves. Like when I say insulated, I mean the rubber is thick enough to insulate you from getting electrocuted. I
Right.
don't mean like warm insulation. So the the class 4 gloves that are good up to like 40,000 volts, they're about that thick, just rubber, and they're kind of hard to really manipulate anything if you're not really used to wearing them. But when it's negative 20 out or whatever, you're just putting your bare hands inside rubber gloves. So what you do is you leave them on the dash on the defroster, just blowing hot air on them, so that when you go outside for at least like the first 15 minutes or so, you have warm hands. But it gets pretty miserable pretty fast.
I might have told this story on the podcast before, but I had a job that basically we did random New York City office stuff, and I actually really liked that job because it was paid okay. It was manual labor. The problem is the hours were never consistent enough to move to New York City, so it just like it didn't work. But I had one experience, as you mentioned, the rubber gloves, where I'm honestly lucky to be alive. I went into this office one day, and I was tasked with changing the lights in the light bulb. Fine. But then I show up, and it's like a really fancy New York City office, and you had to climb a scarily high ladder to access the light bulbs. And to explain the ladder, was one of those ladders where it was like a ladder into like an upward thing. If I had to guess in my head, it was probably 15 to 20 feet off the ground. I'd say more like 20. Like, it was high up there. And the other thing that was terrifying about this was you had to climb up this ladder, and then they had these giant glass light bulbs. And keep in mind, I'm not a manly man. I'm a fucking nervous Jew, right? So you have to climb this fucking ladder, and you got to go up there on the top of the ladder, like just 2 feet on it, unscrew this giant bulb, like this giant glass bulb. I'm talking like this was a fancy high-end New York City marketing office that had like a 2-story cafe area that had like these fancy light bulbs. So you had to take the thing and then come down the ladder, go back up, change the light bulb, come back down, bring the light bulb back up. Bring the giant glass thing back up, and then balance yourself as you twisted it on it. And then the scariest part was they didn't even clear the room while you were doing it. So you were kind of had in your mind, like, I'm a fucking idiot that shouldn't be doing this stuff. As you all just saw, like, I'm a putz, right? I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to drop this thing on someone's head. This is without exaggeration. I'm not like a big story liar fabricator. When I was up there, I was not wearing gloves and got electrocuted. And I came to on the top of the ladder. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, it's not like I totally, like you know what I mean? Like, you freeze up when you get electrocuted. It's like, I don't think I was, like, electrocuted for, like, a long period of time, but I had a moment where, like, I came to, and I was, like, looking around, I was like, holy fuck, I'm on the top of a ladder 20 feet off the ground. Like, I got at least electrocuted enough for, like, that, and then you also have a moment where, like, you want to, like, talk to someone or walk off but there's just people below you just living their fucking lives, you know what I mean? Like, they're just going about their office day. They have no idea that some dude up there nearly just fucking died and dropped shit on them. Holy shit, was that an experience.
So you didn't drop anything. That was what I was going to ask. You had everything secured somehow?
The fact that I survived that is just... I still don't understand that one to this day. And, like, I don't know how badly or how long I was, like, even electrocuted for. But I can just... It wasn't like I even consciously... like, got electrocuted and went like, oh shit, I'm getting electrocuted. It was more like, I almost like temporarily like blacked out for like a half a second. I was like, what the fuck am I doing up here?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever, I haven't actually
got checked afterwards? No, I just went on with my life.
I don't know if I've ever talked about this on a podcast, but have you ever when you're sober, have you ever blacked out for like an extended period of time and just like kind of gone through a blip and come out on the other end and been like, what have I just been doing for the last half hour? Has that ever happened to you other than when you got electrocuted?
Memento moments. I'm like a space cadet, so I've definitely like, no, I once had a concussion where I've lost a couple hours, but I definitely am like a space cadet where I could be like, wait, why did I walk into this room type moments?
Yeah.
Or like, I can definitely lose time just by being a space cadet, but I don't think I've ever like blacked out in an afternoon in a drinking type way that I couldn't make sense out of.
Yeah, so in 2015, I was in Tucson, Arizona, in a personal vehicle, just a pickup truck, but I was driving through like downtown, through the traffic lights and everything. It was like 8 o'clock at night, so traffic was kind of busy, and suddenly I was in the outskirts of town in like, I don't know if you've ever been to Tucson, but in the Catalina foothills, which is like a half-hour drive outside of the center of town. And I didn't have any memory of like how I got there from where I was. And I was so far removed that I had to actually open up my phone and put my maps, like I had to type back in to get back into the center of Tucson because it was dark out and stuff. And I that half hour or whatever, because I was a half hour away from where I'd been, and I don't have any recollection of like driving through any of the traffic lights. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I got
in an 18-wheeler.
No, this was in a personal vehicle. Luckily, this never happened in an 18-wheeler. But I didn't know if I got abducted by aliens or something, and then they just like put me back without any recollection of that time span. But that freaked me out quite a bit.
Yeah, you know what's even freakier to think about is how many other truckers do you think have had that experience and are just behind an 18 wheeler right now? Never saw a doctor, never went to figure out what happened, just out
Yeah.
there on the road going after it.
Yeah, did
All
you
right,
did you hear that
yeah.
story of that those airliner pilots that overshot their they were like arguing over Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump or something in 2016, and they overshot their destination by like 600 miles. It's like, oh,
I
that's
would
kind of close.
I would do that all the time. That's why I'm so happy to not be in an important job. My when I was in college, I thought I was going to work in finance cuz I was a
Uh-huh.
Jewish synagogue going guy. I thought that was going to be my life. And I remember talking my way into a it was like an unpaid hedge fund job in college, like an internship, and it was great because I got to actually be on the floor with a couple traders. I got to see what was going on. I learned a lot. It was actually interesting because you had some economists there, and they were actually into like the Austrian stuff and kind of even going like, "Hey, that shit you're learning in school is bullshit." It was very interesting to see people who are gambling on the news because they have a more honest perspective of it. So it was very interesting. It was cool to be there, but I learned pretty quickly that I was too much of a spaz to possibly exist within that ecosphere because just my ability to fudge minor details was not going to work well for trying to be a trader. I just learned pretty early on. And that's why, by the way, for all the talk about self esteem, it's not true. Sometimes you can learn about yourself that you're just bad at things and you shouldn't be doing them. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. So first is I brought you on for a specific reason. I'll get into it in a minute. For all the people checking out the show, firstly, it's Reed. It's an honor to have you on. For everyone that was enjoying the first half of this episode that had no sound, I will be back tomorrow morning and we will rehash everything that I had scheduled for the episode. Reed, I wanted to have you on today because the other day I was driving back from Buffalo and I do some long hauls with my comedy gigging. And on this particular trip, I was getting off the highway, just looking to take a leak. They had something that was called a visitor center, and I walked in, and I felt like it was a portal to another universe that I didn't know about, which just seemed like an off the road truck stop that had the coolest shit. So, firstly, there was a diner built into it, which was exactly the food I was looking for. I didn't eat there because I just eaten shitty breakfast at some family style restaurant, which we'll get to later. I don't like family style restaurants. I feel unwelcomed. I feel like they told me up
Hmm.
front they don't want my kind in there. They don't want me shitting up in their bathrooms and doing single people shit, right? So, anyways, this place, it looked like the best food I've ever seen. They had clothing, which is the kind of shitty clothing I wear, but it was all like $7. It was like the kind of shirts that you wear. They had warm stuff. I got these Twizzlers, like this trucker brand of Twizzlers, which was delicious. And I was just like, maybe there's a whole world of truck. Like maybe this was a random freak incident, or there's some whole world of off the grid, unique truck stops that I need to be in the know on. It almost felt like that episode of Homer when Simpson joined the whatever that secret society was, and they had a tunnel that got through all the traffic. I don't know if you ever saw that episode. So was I just having some freak fantasy that doesn't exist, or is there a whole landscape I need a CB radio to be in the know of delicious shit that's on the road that I don't even know about? Great bathrooms at this place too. They had like 15 stalls you could shit in, and no one was there. They also had showers. They had everything you would be looking for on the road.
Yeah, so there's a mix of both of those things being true. It is there are some places that are like what you're describing. They're great. They have great food. They got clean bathrooms. They've got great customer service. And then there are other truck stops that are just hell on earth, like the worst the worst place you could ever stop. There's no room to park. There's like three bathroom stalls that are always overflowing with toilet paper and shit that the guy before didn't flush down. I most truck stops when I was over the road trucking, I would not take a shower in. Like you'd want to wear your muck boots into the stall,
Right.
so you didn't like pick up some weird foot fungus that you were gonna die from later. Um, typically, California truck stops were the worst. Like Southern California toward the Nevada border, that was where I saw like some of the worst truck stops, especially during COVID, like the beginning of it when everything started shutting down, because none of the diners were open anymore. Because everything was so crazy in California. Some of them you could eat outside in the stupid tent things they had, because that somehow protected you. Um, but you had to like eat hot dogs and Twizzlers and Slim Jims that you found in the gas station aisles, and that was what got you through. So once you figured out where some of these good truck stops were, then you would try to plan your route accordingly. So like, okay, I'll stop here for lunch, and then I'll go a little further, and I'll make sure that I'm here overnight so that I'm going to have a decent bathroom stall that I can shit in, and somewhere I can get breakfast in the morning before I hit the road. But it definitely takes a little while to figure out where they are and get the hang of it, because you want to get the good ones. If you get the shit ones, it just sucks.
So this is what we need. We need Reed's Almanac, because I have found a similar thing where, if I repeat a drive that I've already done, maybe I explored a little bit on a previous drive. So like I know that there's a good diner here. I know that there's a fun town here. I have criticized quite a few times that I despise highway signs, because frequently they'll tell you that something exists, but now you got to drive 4 towns over, make 3
Yeah.
highway connections. Like I try and cheat on my thing to see if I can see it on the map and how far off the highway it is. Or like frequently, like I panic about having to get home, and I'll be like, all right, listen, I'll just hit the road and I'll find food en route. Or like I fantasize that I'm going to go into some town and find some perfect place to sit down and get work done, or that I'm going to be able to pull in and I'll be able to see the beach or something. And I can't tell you how many times like I'm driving and I could see that like the water's right there. There's a mountain right there, but like I have no information whatsoever of where would be a good pull off. And as a person who's actually now done more road tripping through America than most, I can tell you that more often than not, when you pull off the highway thinking this might be interesting, you realize it's just like private property and you basically have to get back onto the highway. It's not that easy to like, I mean, it's not impossible. It's not like I've never ventured off and seen an interesting city, but for every time I've ever found something, there's been 10 times where I was like, oh, this was a bad pull off.
Yeah, I've done traveling both in a truck and then just in my personal vehicle. I've been to all 49 landlocked states in my pickup truck that I used to have before I got in an accident with it. And I think I've driven across the country 9 times now, not in a truck, but just in a car. Um, or it might even be more than that because I went out skiing in Colorado a couple. I don't know. It's been a ton of times, and it's a lot easier to find these places with a personal vehicle because it's just way smaller
Easier to
and more
navigate. You don't have
maneuverable.
to worry about the truck.
Yeah, and especially with this type of stuff I was hauling when I was trucking out west, it was all oversized, over height, over width, overweight. So there were so many restrictions on where you could go. There was this awesome port in California right outside of Oxnard. Is Port Hueneme, and if you got down there, after the port closed, but early enough that all the restaurants were open, you could park your truck basically right along the beach, and there was a nice seafood restaurant right there. You could watch the sunset right over the Pacific Ocean or whatever. If you but I had to go there like I don't know, 3 or 4 times before I figured out how to finesse that, how to get there at the right time of day, where you could park without getting kicked out by the police, where was easy to park that was close enough to the restaurants to walk to, all this stuff. So a lot of it is you're right. Like I think there actually is an app. My brother was telling me about it. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it's actually basically what you're talking about, where it's people have dropped a pin where it's a great place to park, and what's nearby and what the views are like, whether or not you have to pay for it, what size vehicle you can fit in it. It does exist. I'll see if I can find it on my phone what it was, but
While you're looking it up, I'm curious to hear, what was the truck accident?
Overlander. If you have an iPhone, that is the app that my brother told me about. Yeah, so it was actually the first time I met Clint in person when we went to Freedom Fest in summer of 2021. So I was living in Salt Lake City and he was leaving San Diego. So he met me in Salt Lake, and then we both drove our own vehicles to Freedom Fest. But we were in Cody, Wyoming, right after visiting Yellowstone because Clint had never been there. And we were both, so we're in separate vehicles. He's in his vehicle, I'm in mine. And we're driving through Cody, and it's like 10 o'clock at night. So I can understand how this could have happened in the day when you're not really paying attention, but when it's night and you got headlights and everything, and you're like bearing down on someone. You'd think they'd be able to see you. But Clint and I were coming down this road going like 40 miles per hour, and there was a turning lane in the middle of the road, and there's a guy facing me who's turning left across my lane into a McDonald's. And so I saw him, but I'm coming down at 40 miles per hour. There's no way he's going to have time to turn in front of me. And then at the very last second, he just rolled right in front of me. And if you see the pictures of my truck, he didn't even go early enough to hit the front of my truck. He sort of hit like the side of the front fender. And
I love how you're giving this to me like I'm the insurance adjuster. Like
yeah,
you really have this story down. And that was
yeah.
your like what like you had like a Ford F-150 type truck, or you're talking about like a hauling truck?
No, this was a little 1994 Toyota pickup. But it had a lot of sentimental value because I'd driven it to all 49 landlocked states. And because I when I was back in like 2015, 2016, I went to all 50 states, did like a 2-year long walkabout road trip thing, just going all over the place. And that was the truck I did everything in. And I'd replaced the engine at 305,000 miles. So I had like revamped it and everything was good to go. And then this 18-year-old kid really wanted a Big Mac, so he just rolled in front of me. And luckily he didn't kill me or himself, but so, I was pretty pissed about my truck. I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I can understand that. And all right, so you've done some long ass hauls. I'm curious to know what are Reed's favorite road snacks, because I definitely I like snacking on the road. So I'm curious to know, because it's definitely not easy to be healthy when you've got long, because that you're bored, you're eating, you're noshing. So I'm curious to know, what were your go-to road snacks?
So honestly, I just started chewing bubble gum because I would eat too much on the road otherwise. I needed something to take my mind off of it.
Yeah, just chew a lot of gum.
Yeah. So I also like when you're going to these truck stops, it's really easy to get fried food or pizza all the time. I had a pretty strict rule that I wouldn't eat fried food or pizza from a truck stop. I'd always get grilled chicken if they had it or something like that, or a cold sandwich, because I was sitting all the time and I didn't want to be 400 pounds. But when I'm like actually on the road, I would I don't know, Skittles. That was kind of that was usually like what I would eat. One bag of Skittles a day or something like that. And then I'd mostly stop for actual meals, but mostly bubble gum, just so I wouldn't eat too much while I'm sitting in the driver's seat.
That's not a bad move. Bubblegum. I'm going to get into bubblegum lifestyle. Any bubblegum suggestions? Like, would you go like the old school ones with the Hubba Bubba or whatever? You have to like actually
dude, those are so good, but the flavor only lasts like 5 minutes. So
right.
if
and
you
then
do go that
angry,
way,
you're just fucking like chomping on it.
Yeah, if you do go that way, you got to buy like 12 packs to get through a 10-hour day, because otherwise it's just, it doesn't do it. And then the other stuff, if it's like that Trident spearmint stuff, that doesn't
that's no good. That's not what you want. No, you want something, because it gets too small too quickly. You want something like the baseball player gum that you're really like fucking chomping on something. I understand that 100%. In-road vehicle peeing. I got to be honest. Sometimes on my road trips, I'm being a lady and I'm taking too many piss breaks. I'll fully admit to it. Now, sometimes the big variable that I guess fucks me up is like sometimes I'm trying to do a workout before I get into the car type deal, and then I've like overly hydrated and now I got to pee a whole bunch. Or other times I'm just pounding coffee, and so sometimes I'm a frequent urinator. I actually prefer to be the driver, so I don't have to be sitting there like being like, oh, you might pull over. So, I speed, I haul, I'm fucking weaving in and out between cars, and then between my ADD when I take breaks, and if I walk into a gas station, I just look at shit for too long. I'll spend 3 minutes looking at a fucking fridge and just cursing at them for not having better seltzers. I'll be like, what's wrong with this state? They got no respect for seltzers. They don't have any seltzers. Then I'll be like, do they have this one cookie I like? Then they won't have it, so I'll read every single wrapper on the other cookie. I'm just saying, I waste a lot of time on the road. And it's frequently because I'm pulling off looking for bathrooms. I'm curious to know, were you a pee in the bottle kind of guy? What are the tips and tricks for shitting and pissing on the road?
So, first of all, I'll say I didn't drink enough when I was a truck driver full time. And I found this out because I got kidney stones, which are not fun.
Ooh, yeah, that doesn't
So,
sound fun.
I mean, I remember in about a year ago, I jumped in the truck and I drove straight for 8 hours without stopping at all.
That's pretty good.
6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. And I remember getting there at 2 in the afternoon and realizing how easy it had been to just drive straight, 8 hours straight. And I was like, that's probably not very healthy.
Right.
Um, but I think truckers get the between the dual tires exemption for pissing. Like I know that's illegal in
So you
some
can just
public
pull over and
places.
pee in between your tires.
Yeah, I think it's understood that truckers are allowed to do that. You know, not that none of them have ever gotten in trouble for it, but that was what I got away with it in a lot of places. Um, I never actually did the pee in the cup thing ever. I mean, it's not something I'd be ashamed to admit, but I never had to. I'd always find somewhere to do it between the tires or not drink enough water and get kidney stones later on. So,
There you go. That was your
um,
commitment to not
yeah,
peeing within your vehicle.
exactly.
All right. And then I find on these long trips, I almost get into like 40 accidents on every trip because I'll be just scrolling through YouTube trying to find something to entertain myself. And I'm also ADD, so like my YouTube is 3 minutes of this. All right, what else I got? Scrolling, scrolling. All right, I'll live for 30 seconds. I never download podcasts ahead of time. Sometimes I go with audiobooks and I pretend like I'm listening to them, and then I just realize I'm falling asleep and not like absorbing any of it, so I move on. So I'm curious on like your long trucking where you listen to country tunes, you talking to yourself. What were you doing to pass the time?
All the above, man. I tried to. I never made it all the way through it. What's that awful Rothbard book? That's like the super long one. Shit. Man, Economy, and State. Right? Isn't that the super long
I
one?
have not read that one.
Yeah, I
I
have not
honestly have
read the
not read most of the better libertarian literature.
I had never read any of Rothbard's books until 2021 when I was like, okay, I guess if I'm going to be a libertarian podcaster, I got to actually read some of this stuff. And that was the one I could never get through. And I tried to audiobook it, but I forget how many hours long it is. And after like 20 minutes, I would realize I'm not retaining any of this or even listening. Also, with like I did audiobook Scott Horton's Enough already, and some stuff like that. Like I can audiobook if it's not too painful, but a lot of like the mundane, like boring economic stuff, I just you can only take so much of it. Um,
I
and
I gotta say, audiobooks have completely ruined my reading habits because I mean I read probably like 2 hours of like news a day, but also like I space out. I do push-ups in between, so it's not like necessarily like a focused 2 hours of reading. But like I read too much daily news, which is all bullshit. I used to be
yeah,
better about like having a planned time to read until I discovered audiobooks. And like I was listening to them at like 1.3 speed and being like, this is matrixy shit. I'm just downloading this information into my brain. I remember nothing of what I listened to. More often than not, I realized I've spaced out for the last 20 minutes, and because I thought it was going to be more convenient, I stopped reading shit because like I was like, I'll just listen to these. So it's I don't know, it's devil. It's the devil right there because it's just it took away reading from me because I thought it was more effective, and I don't think I've learned one thing.
yeah. I have always had that problem with reading like I've never been into. I've never been the type of guy to just sit down and read a book for leisure because my mind will just go somewhere else. I mean, I'm fine with reading articles, reading summaries, reading I don't know if there's something I'm researching or whatever, but just like sitting down and reading The Catcher in the Rye or something like this is not something my brain
Right.
is set up for. But what yeah, I mean, trucking, I would listen to audiobooks because I could handle that listening to them. And then music a lot of the time. And then also sometimes just nothing. I mean, I'd go for a couple hours just listening to the tires on the pavement. And I don't know. I mean, you need a little bit of all of it. Like sometimes just too much of anything is too much, and you just got to have a break.
You gotta mix it up. You know what? My favorite thing on car rides is Well, sometimes I'll listen back to comedy sets if I don't put myself to sleep. Sometimes that really puts me to sleep. Not a great sign, but it does. Then also sometimes I'll try and rant out the bits. I'll like record them, listen to them back. I've developed some material that way. But my personal favorite is I do try and line up my work calls when I'm in the car, because then like I really I don't mind them, or even like just the catching up with friends calls. Those I like. All right, I got a question in the comments from Steve Oshie. What city has the best lot lizards?
Oh man, I only ever saw three. Trying to remember where they were. One was in Nevada. I'm trying to remember what city. Ely, Nevada is where I saw one. Um, saw one in Denver, Colorado, and one in California. I'm trying to remember what Barstow, California. So I don't know. I don't know what I never facilitated any of them, but that was the only time I saw any.
All right, I got two more questions for you. Next is I'm actually going to be in New Hampshire this Friday for a
Oh,
Free
nice.
State Project event. I will let everyone know where they can go find this event. Hold on one second, because they got nhlibertyforum.com. Is that something? Are you going to be at that?
I'm unfortunately not. I wish I were, but
Oh, where are you headed?
I'm going to New York actually.
Oh, look at that. What do you got brewing in New York?
Just some personal stuff.
All
So
right. How long you in town for? Hit me up.
yeah, where you're down in Connecticut,
I'm
right?
in Connecticut, but I'm in New York City usually every Monday and Wednesday. I've got my own show every Wednesday at Cafe Bohemia, which is a cool little
Hmm.
jazz club. So I've been trying to put together a weekly show so I can work on some more new material. And then Monday I usually go in for work, and sometimes I hit up Skank. So if you're around Monday or Wednesday, hit me up.
All right, sounds good, man.
All right, and then last question for you. So do you have any more trucking gigs lined up, or are you putting the trucking behind you more for power lines and the random odd jobs?
I definitely don't plan on putting it behind me. I mean, even at the working for the power line contractor, I still move heavy equipment sometimes. I'm driving a truck every day. It's just not quite the same thing. It's not, 11 axles and 18 feet wide and crazy stuff like it was out west. So I still got my foot in the door either way. But I do kind of miss trucking full time because it's really hard to podcast and do this type of work because when you're in the truck, you can kind of relax and decompress while you're working because you're just driving. You just have the occasional idiot that gets you a little riled up, but for the most part, it's pretty relaxing. And then you can also listen to podcasts and take in information about what's going on during the day. You can't do that with what I do now. Like what I do
Yeah,
now, you're hands on all
you're
day.
literally exhausted. There's a different
Yeah,
thing when you're physically exhausted from a long ass day.
yeah, I've only done 4 episodes of my show this year. Usually, when I was trucking, I did like 2 or 3 episodes a week. So, I don't know. We'll see. It's a lot better money what I'm doing right now. I mean, I've made crazy money this year because of all the storms. But I don't know. People ask me what's my 5 year plan. I don't even have a 5 month plan.
I
So
get that. All
we'll
right.
see
Well,
what happens.
I would like. Do you think if I were to just kind of do a spontaneous comedy tour and play truck stops, are there people there at night that if I just did a show, they'd be like, "Yeah, I'll check that out," or like, would that not work at all? Like, are
I
there
think
people at
it could
truck
work.
stop? Like, are there some like bigger truck stops that there's just truckers that are like there for the night with absolutely nothing to do, or is that not really a thing?
Oh no, I mean if you went to like the Iowa 80 truck stop in Iowa, there's always people there, and if you advertised it ahead of time, I bet I bet you could get a crowd. I mean, it depends on the truck stop. Like if you
Right.
go in the middle of the day to some random truck stop in the middle of you know Illinois or something out in the field, like you're probably gonna fall flat. But there are some that are really big and have traffic all the time, and if you're there like 8 o'clock at night or something, I bet you could get people to
I
come.
would love to do a truck stop tour. Like just haul with someone. Now, you let me know the next time you're on a long haul. I can just ride around, bring a speaker, do 8 p.m. shows even for nothing. It would just be fun. Maybe for a couple nights. I don't know that I'd like to make that my life, but it could be. Summer porch tour has just been a weird one, and it's been an absolute blast. It was just a thought, and it's been the coolest. And I do. I mean, the comedy clubs. You're not gonna beat the comedy clubs. It's awesome showing up, having packed out rooms, the acoustics, all the logistics taken care of. But then there's also something to the tailgate comedy, which is just, hey, we're in the parking lot, but I got the speaker and whatever, you know.
Yeah, man. If you do the truck stop tour, I'd love to at least go to a couple of those with you. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that off the ground. You float it
Yeah.
out into the universe, and who knows? Like summer porch tour. Maybe we'll end up with a truck stop tour. All right,
I
that's
like
all
it.
I got. Thank you for hanging out. Tomorrow I will be back with a brand new, not brand new episode. It will be a condensed version of what was supposed to happen today. I'd also like to plug YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo. And then Reed, I give it to you. What do you got? What do you got to plug?
Yeah, just my Twitter is back, so go follow me at Reed Coverdale. It's been gone a year and a half. Finally got it back. And then you can check out my podcast, which is The Naturalist Capitalist. It's on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all your audio streams. And yeah, go to New Hampshire Liberty Forum on Friday, even though I won't be there. And I'll Robbie will cross paths at some point. Look forward to seeing you.
Hell yeah. I'm curious to do this event because all of my political stuff I put out with my end of year. So now I'm really just telling my filthy club jokes. And we'll see. We'll see how that does with the. I know up there, it's kind of like the home team and they actually like more of the political and libertarian jokes. But on this one, they're just getting the filthy late night jokes.
There you go.
Hell yeah. All right, Reed. Always a pleasure. Maybe I'll catch you in the city. And if not, hopefully we'll do another Florida porch tour. Could happen.
All right, sounds good, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, peace.